Hi sports fans, I'm Bob LaBarbera, and I played at football and other sports at Bishop Gibbons High School, graduated in 1966, and Ed and I are going to have a little conversation about Bishop Gibbons football.
What positions did you play at Gibbons football?
I was a halfback and a defensive back.
How would you describe your experience of playing football at Bishop Gibbons in the 1960s?
Well, it was an experience to be sure. Being that in my neighborhood I hung around with guys that played for North Tonawanda High School and went to grade school with a lot of them, and got that detached when I went to Bishop Gibbons. We had a little bit of a, conversations for and against with each other. Just friendly stuff though. I played only 2 years. I played it when I was a junior because I finally weighed 140 pounds, so I figured I could stop running cross country and start playing football. So I didn't play too much my junior year, but I played behind Mike Cox actually, who graduated in '65.
Who were your coaches at Gibbons at that
Coach
time?
was Hank Lewis. Henry Lewis was the coach from day one of everything. He was the baseball coach, he was the basketball coach, and he was the football coach. Says truth being that we had very Spartan-like kind of training, and very, well, Hank might have been a little limited. Football probably was his best sport. Basketball, I think, and baseball, I think he was a little bit of a neophyte, but we were competitive. We did well with Hank.
How big was the football roster when you played?
The football roster, I'm gonna guess, we probably might have had 16, 18, maybe 20 on a good year. We did have a JV team too though, so it was a popular sport, it was well attended.
Back then you played, who were some of the opponents that you played against?
Oh gosh, we played Canisius, we played St. Joe's, we played Notre Dame of Batavia, Walsh of Olean, St. Francis of Athol Springs. Let me think. Well, the JV and the freshmen, we played a lot of the bigger schools, but Cardinal O'Hara at the time was a larger school, because all the schools that were closing at that time, a lot of them were in that proximity, North Buffalo and Town of Tonawanda. So O'Hara, which started out to be a small kind of an enrolled school, became huge. So they were playing with the bigger guys. But we did play that.
What would you want to let people know about Bishop Gibbons High School and the football experience there?
Well, Bishop Gibbons High School was, we probably had to deal a little bit more with discipline from the nuns and the priests than maybe the guys that I knew that went to North Tonawanda. But I gotta say it was a wonderful experience, and athletics were held pretty high too. So most of the students participated in some kind of athletics or one or another. Football was kind of like hallowed ground though. Football in North Tonawanda, let's face it, has always been held a little higher up the pecking order than the other sports. At least that's been my experience.
In your opinion, if you put your senior team at Gibbons against North Tonawanda, how would you guys have done? Well,
I'm not going to make any fearless predictions, but I would say that would have been competitive, because now that the talent pool got split because Gibbons was out there, I think North Tonawanda football kind of dropped a little bit, and it was always very well respected, North Tonawanda in football. So I would say that I would think it would have been a good contest. I don't think we would have got blown away, and I'm sure we wouldn't have blown North Tonawanda away.
What were some of the things that you learned from playing football at Gibbons?
Well, some of the things is I learned to be a survivor. Being 140 pounds of massive tissue, I gotta tell you, probably my strong suit was, for some reason or other, I really could take a hit, and I could really deliver a hit. And Hank, God rest his soul, my coach, Henry Lewis, would have told you that, because he used to single me out in that respect. But by the same token, I think I learned to be a survivor. One of the biggest lessons I learned when I was running the ball, I never, with very few exceptions, gave anybody a full hit on me, because I was playing with bigger guys. So at least I might have not have been the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I was smart enough to figure that one out.
Who were some of the guys that you played with?
Oh gosh,
you talked about earlier
did.
about some
Yeah.
really good players that made all
Yeah.
Catholic and whatnot.
Yeah, in fact, Ed Harmon I didn't play with, but by the same token, there was a guy that, he was a man-child. Everybody, when they saw his presence on the field, was definitely noticed. When I was a junior, we had a talent with we had, Chabelle was at quarterback. We won our first game that year, 52-0 against, Baker Victory was another one that I forgot to mention, and DeSales. But we beat Baker Victory 52-0, and then the whole season fell apart after that. We didn't do very well. But we had some very talented guys. Mike Cox and Dale Wilson were running backs. Chuck Rabb was a lineman. I'm just trying to think some of the other linemen we had. Billy McCarthy was a junior at the time, as was I. He was an end. Tom Sarkovics was actually the backup quarterback till later in the season. Tom, though, was an excellent punter. Tom averaged over 40 yards a kick for the whole season, and I remember when we played, another one I forgot, St. Mary's of Lancaster, he had 2 70-yard punts in that game. But the year I played, Bob Akins was all Western New York. He was a tackle on offense and defense. We had the Helinski brothers, who were guards. Billy McCarthy was an all-Catholic end. In fact, Tony Helinski, Bob Akins, Tom Helinski, Bill McCarthy were all Catholic that year. And one of the newspapers also picked Dennis Winecki, who was a junior at the time. He was an all-Catholic running back. That was a team that finished second. We lost the last game to Notre Dame of Batavia. They were the champs. We finished a half game back because there was some ties involved.
You played your games at the Payne Avenue Stadium, correct?
Yes, we did, yes. Which is now Vetterfield. Well, it became Vetterfield.
Regarding Bishop Gibbons football, is there something that you want to add to this conversation that maybe I haven't asked or brought up?
Well, you know, we felt kind of special, you know, to be involved with the school, because we were different from the public school programs. And our experiences, I think, probably were more interesting, I think, than what the guys at NT had, because I used to pal with those guys. And they used to love the stories I'd tell them about the priests and the nuns, and about me getting pinned up against the wall by a priest, and, you know, kind of stuff like that. No, we were definitely survivors. We learned a lot about life there, and how to cope with situations and deal with people. And that pretty much sums it up. It got me this far.
Thank you so much.